Hello everyone, I hope you're doing quite fine. My name is Skyline, and this is the fourth installment of my map mastery series, this time taking a look at a map that some teams in solo queue roll through, and others just sort of stall out right out of the gate. That is Watchpoint Gibraltar. This map is actually really simple and straightforward most of the way through. There usually aren't any crazy rotations or strategies the attacker can use, but if the attackers choose the wrong path, it's easy to be hopelessly shut out. Being our first payload map, we have to look at this a little bit differently than we looked at the control point maps from earlier. So the key with these maps is to find the earliest point that the defenders can stand and actually have a chance. Everywhere over here is obviously too close, basically inside of the spawn, so the first place that one might look is this corner here. We can have our tanks sit here, our DPS maybe sit up here. It doesn't seem too bad. This is a pretty decently defensible spot, but we run into issues when we see, well, there's this stairwell. You can't really deny access to the stairwell. People can come up to the high ground very easily from there. It's pretty close to the spawn. You can see the spawn's right there. Plus, again, we have this undeniable area off to the side where people can flank around. They can get behind you if you're holding at the corner. They can get behind you if you're holding on the high ground. So lots of flanking paths. As we can see, the attackers have all this room to just get around you if you're holding here. Next there's over here, which doesn't really make any sense because you have all this nice high ground advantage for the attackers, plus they can easily just loop around and drop down on you like that. So we continue to go backwards, and eventually we have this area, which is the most popular place to defend on Watchpoint Gibraltar, and for good reason. So indeed, this is about the earliest that the defenders can reasonably contest the point on this map. So now let's switch over to the attackers and see which way we can actually attack this part of the map. There's two basic paths. There's this way and this way. Obviously, at least one or two people need to use this underpass to push the cart up initially in the early stage of the map. Aside from this though, this is not a very good place, because as you walk up, you have no inherent advantage. You're pretty much just walking through a tunnel. If the enemy is on that high ground, that's very disadvantageous. If they're up there, that's disadvantageous. If they're up there, if they're over there, there's no cover for you. So this path is not very good except for just pushing the actual cart up at the beginning. And even then, you just need one or two people to do it. So what about this path? Well, it is of course the stairwell that leads through here, up the stairs, and then out this side way. But you can also get there from the high ground. So really, this path and this path both come out to the same area. Controlling this area of the map seems a whole lot better. So generally this top entrance is going to be the most useful if we want to use this doorway. Similarly, instead of using this underpass area, we can just go into this high ground area, which is the same thing, but better. Plus, of course, controlling this gives you access to this, these two little sniper perches for your DPS to sit on. So up here seems overall the best for the attackers. Now, whether you want to go this way or this way, well, I guess it depends, right? Because this door is pretty small, so if there are defenders defending here, this is not a good spot. But if the defenders are over here, oh well, suddenly this is quite a good spot. Now, likewise, if the team is here and they are trying to control this corridor, they're shooting at it from here, they're trying to really take this high ground, coming from this direction may not be the best. Plus, you can also loop around, plus you can all go all the way up there and actually attack the people on the high ground if you really want to. So basically, it's just, you just have to mirror each other. If the defense is here, you go this way. If the defense is here, you go this way. So let's go over both of these defensive spaces for the defenders. We will start over here. Now, this high ground is obviously very awesome. People like to use that high ground a lot. But another very popular thing is to use Dark Room as a main defending area. You have your Reinhardt sort of stand here, and he's close enough to stop the cart from progressing if he stands in this doorway. Now, you can't pair both of these together, however. You can't have people up here at the same time you're trying to defend over here. Because if the other team just runs, you know, a Winston, Diva, whatever, Genji, dive compy thing, then they just come over and they jump on you, and these guys are very, very sad. But if your tanks are defending over here, and your DPS or whoever you want is up here and they get dove on, well, they can just jump down and suddenly you have a full set of 6 ready to stop the dive. No problem. In fact, you have to take this high ground if you defend over here, because remember, this is very easily accessible to the attackers. If you have all 6 people just standing down here and trying to defend, then all it takes is a soldier or a roadhog or something to jump up here and suddenly you guys lose. There's no way you can defend from these 2 angles at the same time. That's why you have people up here fighting here, and then you have people here, your tanks on the ground fighting here. This is usually how this type of defense works out on Gibraltar. Next we have the darkroom defense, which is much more consolidated. So this is going to be more for a ranged composition with your longer range characters, lots of rifles and guns and stuff. This is going to be more for your tanky melee oriented compositions where you have your Reinhardt stand here. Everyone just sort of turtles in this corridor, forces the enemy to get in close because there's no real angle to shoot you from. And then once they attack up here, or once they try to cluster into this doorway, which is probably not a very good idea for them, you just jump on them and punch them in the face. And so this defense usually winds up being this, and then the attackers come here, and then you have your little face-off this way. What about here though? You can have DPS stand up here and attack, but they're pretty easily flankable. All it takes is just a stray roadhog or something, because remember, everyone's in here already, so all it takes is a roadhog, just anything to come over here, and suddenly these people are very unsafe up here. So like I said, this usually tends to be a ground battle of here versus here. Now the pros and cons, this is really just all preference. Like I said, this is more for a melee-oriented composition. This is a range-oriented composition. This is a bit more dangerous because if the cart starts to slip away from you and go this way a little bit, oh well, suddenly this entire thing is invalidated because now you have to come and actually attack the cart. You know, if the cart's over here, your Reinhardt can't contest it. He's not close enough, so you need to actually go and push out an attack into this wide open area. This one is a little bit safer because, well, you're right in the direct path of the cart, so you always are going to be defending in the same spot. It's much more consistent, and for solo queue, I would definitely recommend this defensive strat over this one because the darkroom strat requires a lot more just knowledge and teamwork because you are dealing 6 people all have to go and initiate all at the same time, plus you have to make sure this isn't happening, and this is just way easier. So I just suggest this in solo queue, but that's pretty much it for the first point of Gibraltar. Moving on, we're almost halfway through. This is the second checkpoint, and if we want to see where the defenders can defend again, well, obviously this is no good because you have boop boop and all the high ground, and nope, so we got to go back further. And we could stand here, theoretically. The issue is you're now giving the attackers this high ground that they normally wouldn't have, and this high ground as well. So it's doable, but then when you consider the fact that someone can come over here and flank around, it's maybe not so good. Well, we have to go back a little bit further. This is looking much better, but now you have this thing behind you, that high ground up here. So let's maybe back up a little bit more. And here we go. I'm sure this is something you see a lot. Very popular place to defend on Gibraltar, but this is pretty much the earliest place the defenders can actually put up a set defense. As far as the attacking paths go, there are 2. There is that away, and there is that away through the high ground. And you can actually extend this to go even further. You can go super mega flank around, but this is not very practical for all 6 people to do. So basically this way or this way. Very similar, but different. Obviously this is high ground, so it just naturally looks better, but also the issue with going this way is you open up an additional angle to the defenders, which is this high ground right here. If you go this way, suddenly that high ground doesn't exist anymore, but now it's super scary. How many times have you had a soldier with visor come and boop boop ruin your day from behind there coming on this low ground path? There is also, of course, the very, very powerful spaceship area on top of the spaceship. In case you don't know how to get up there, as any hero, you just come over here and you can see there's this box. Hop on that, hop on the tarp, hop on the wing, and now you're on the ship with any hero. As the attackers, you have to deal with this spot, or else you're going to be in big trouble. Now, this is a pretty good place to deal with the spot, except it's on the wrong side, because remember, you're going to be attacking from this direction. So instead here, this is the best place to deal with the spot. You have a direct line of fire to anyone who wants to harm your team. Up here is not very good because you're a little bit too sharp of an angle. They have a really big advantage if they're looking down at you from here, because you're looking up like this. So having your DPS up here to be able to contest the ship is very strong, as the rest of your team pushes through, clears this area, clears out the bridge, and then drops down for the big fight. That's pretty much it for this checkpoint. It's very straightforward. It's a very straight up, dual sort of checkpoint. You basically have your DPS fighting their DPS. That's up there. You have your team go down and fight their team over here, and it's just a very straight up fight. Now, if this guy is losing the duel with this guy, you can't push. This is a very sad situation. So you need to have someone help him, a Genji or a Pharah, to come and tag team is very strong in this case. As far as the defenders go, this is a very straight up fight. You just sit here with your tanks. Your supports can utilize some nice cover back here, and on the corner. This area is a little bit awkward to really utilize to set people up here because it's very far away. You're letting them push the cart very far. It's a little bit isolated. This I like to use this area as just a fallback spot. Like if the guy on the spaceship is having a hard time, he can just jump down here, and now suddenly he's in another pretty nice position over here. The issue is there's very little cover. You have to go all the way back here to have cover, and this is really hard to get a good angle on. That's why this high ground is kind of awkward to use, this catwalk for defenders. But moving on, we have just one more left. We're almost done, guys. Can almost get out of here. Isn't it a joy and a pleasure? So this is the third checkpoint of Gibraltar. And this one I think the teams either get or they don't get. And it's a bit random. So let's look at it from the attacker's point of view. There's only one main attack path. That's it. There's no alternate route. Sure, you can come this way, but it's a little bit bad because choke point number 1, choke point number 2, and really you come out and you see, oh, look, high ground over there where people can attack us from. There's cover over there, and we're just out of the open. So this is not really viable for a main attack route. We're just really looking at going this way. This can be used as a flank around for maybe just one person to sneak up. And of course we have this thing over the back that Genji and Pharah can get over. So where is the earliest we can defend on the third checkpoint that's reasonable? Well, this is a little bit too close to the spawn, plus we don't want to be so close that this high ground for the attackers becomes really relevant. So let's go back. This spot doesn't really have any cover, kind of bad. We have to either come to this corner is one spot, one potential thing, or we could also do this corner. This is actually close enough to contest as well. So this thing. Now, which one's better? Well, if we are here, you can see we basically mitigate this. This is no longer a flanking route. This is no longer a flanking route because we're looking directly at it. And the only real flanking route we have are these doors, but again, we're looking directly at those too. So if someone comes through the door, we know where they're coming from, and the person up here on the high ground can just look down and kill them. If you defend here, you have the advantage of being directly in the path of the payload. Remember before we talked about if the payload slips by you just a little bit, now suddenly you have to step a little bit too far up to actually contest it, and your defensive position is compromised. So that is the one advantage of standing here. The issue being that this thing becomes a little bit of a factor. That can be a little bit dangerous, and this thing, this loop around that flanking path becomes a big problem for you. So in reality, you'd have to come all the way back here to defend this position practically, and there isn't really too much cover. You'd have to be back here, basically, all the way back in this area. So this is much further up, buys you a lot more time, meaning it's superior. You always want to pick the good defensive spot that is as close as possible. So if this is a good defensive spot and this is a good defensive spot, well, this one is closer, so this is the one we use. Once again, there's not too much finesse to this team fight. It's pretty much just people A that are attacking versus people B that are defending, and they fight each other, and there's maybe some DPS or support or something up there. that gives the defenders a little bit of an advantage. If the attackers shove up far enough, getting a flanker back here can be very, very strong to nullify this high ground. That's only if you manage to shove them up and get an advantage though. Otherwise, you can't just throw a flanker over here. They'll see him and kill him. Getting a Pharah to attack from this different angle can be pretty strong as well, because that can put pressure on this high ground, which lets you push in much more easily and take out the defenders. Moving on, so once that point is compromised, we have one more area of the map, and this is an area that a lot of defenders have big trouble with, because the tendency is to just sort of stand here, and unless, the cart might be able to give you cover, but basically there's no cover over here. This is completely wide open. You can stand behind this, but even this isn't very good because you can't see too much. And so this entire area is just pretty sad for the defenders, when really the only good area is behind these boxes. I'd like to see the supports and DPS utilize these boxes specifically more for cover, and this corner as well, because this gives you a lot more leverage over the map. You can come here, and suddenly you're behind people who are pushing in. So a lot of people tend to stand on the right-hand side just because it's more natural, and there isn't too much for you there. Whereas the left-hand side gives you a lot more room for using cover, getting around, flanking around, just a lot better. Same thing goes for the respawn too. This map is pretty notorious for people just walking out and getting blown up, because when you come out of this spawn, you just come out into a death zone basically. This is complete disaster essentially for anyone walking through, unless you really, really brute force your way through completely. Now, it's a little bit longer. It clocks in at about 2 seconds longer, but this path is definitely worth it. Most of the time you can afford those 2 seconds, and when you can, coming up here is much better. You can see you start behind cover, and you can use it, and as we went over before, come around, do whatever you want. So whenever it is at all possible, always use this entrance, even though I know that it spawns you facing this entrance, so most people use it, even though it clearly is kind of a sad entrance. That's not one you want to be going through if you can at all avoid it. As for any attackers who want to take this, well, you do have very easy access to this high ground, so I suggest you use it. Just put a DPS hero up here, and then push through here. And because you have more cover, you have these pillars, you have these rooms you can duck behind, you have this high ground, the attackers still have an advantage coming into this last section. But anyway, guys, that's about it for Watchpoint Gibraltar. Let me know any special tips, tricks, or secret strategies you've come up with for this map in the comments below, and I'll see you there. Also, we'd love to have you in our Discord server. We're about 2,500 users strong at this point, and let me tell you, this is the most positive, helpful, awesome community in all of Overwatch that I've seen thus far. If you want any help, any partners for ranked, any, looking for teams, looking for in-houses, anything like that, it's not me, it's the community. They've just made it really cool, so I think it's a really cool Discord. You guys should check it out. It's in the description below, but never forget to stay positive and have a great day. Peace out, guys.